And from that point on, they got worse and worse and worse, and I was finally never without a headache for the rest of my Sea Org career. They are now gone. I mean, they started to go after I left. And I associated with the mental trauma one has to go through in applying some of those techniques when they do not apply to you. And the most important thing about this is that our right to speak out was taken away from us in Scientology. Our right to express an opinion was not just limited by Hubbard's policy, it was totally obliterated. Everything you find fault with in Scientology is put back on you. It is not a fault of the organization. A little bit later, after that, one of our crew members was assigned the condition of liability the first time in the Sea Org. She had to wear a gray rag. She had a great big black mark on her cheek. She was excommunicated from the crew. She had to eat her food on deck if the cook would give her any, until she had met certain conditions and she could come back into good standing with the rest of the crew. A little while after that, Hubbard assigned his big ship, the Apollo, the condition of liability for the entire ship and all the crew. And those crew sailed out of Valencia Harbor with a gray material tied around the funnel of the ship, all the crew with gray rags and those gray marks on their cheeks. And the ship had to go out on its own and make good what it had done wrong. It was not allowed to communicate with Hubbard or the other ships. It was on its own. And I remember seeing that ship sail out with that gray material around the funnel, and I said to myself, this is going to cause a lot of trouble in the port with the Spaniards and the people in the harbor who do not understand what's going on. And sure enough, from that point on, our little ship went around after the big one, cleaning up all the messes in each port, the misunderstandings of what Hubbard was creating. Then came the chain lockers. I don't know if you all know what a chain locker is. It is a big steel compartment in the front of the ship where the anchor chain is curled up when the anchor is out of the water. And it's dark in there, it is cold, and when you're out on the ocean, it's freezing and it's damp. Hubbard started putting people in there for punishment. The first one he put in was a 4-year-old boy, Derek Green. Derek had to be in there for 5 days and 5 nights. And the little boy was put in with just his normal clothes. He was not given extra blankets, extra clothing. And the worst thing of all, he was given food. He was not allowed to go to the bathroom. He was left in there like that for 5 days and 5 nights. It brings on a, excuse me. I was there when it happened. Even worse, Felice Green, Derek's mother, was on deck pleading with Hubbard to let her child out. And all he said was, thank you, Lucilla, all he said was, children are really adults in children's bodies. They know what they've done. He knows what he's done. And he turned away from the mother. You would say to yourself, why didn't you do anything? Why didn't you speak out? You see, I was a true believer. I believed that Hubbard knew what he was doing. I, unfortunately, believed that he knew what it was going to take to help everyone in the world, and that even though I didn't understand, it was my duty to follow and support what he was doing. And none of us spoke out. None of us did anything. I have many more things to talk about. I think my time is almost up. I will go through a few very quickly. The overboards, throwing people overboard, started soon after that. The first person who did something stupid was thrown from the flying bridge 4 stories down into the water. Shortly after that, in Corfu, Greece, people were thrown overboard in a ceremony every day. It became a normal thing. 92, 95 meters down into the dirty harbor water. When LRH Hubbard, who watched every day, saw the sinners enjoying themselves, they would march up and jump into the water. And when he saw them enjoying themselves, he ordered their hands tied behind their back. Then a week later, he ordered their feet tied as well. And then maybe a week later, he ordered them blindfolded as well. And I watched as a 60-year-old lady was thrown overboard, and she screamed all the way down into the water. And when the sound stopped, Hubbard looked interested for the first time and sent 2 deckhands overboard to make sure she was okay and help her back on board. His rages continued. At times I heard from his cabin sounds like dishes, objects being thrown against the bulkhead. He started physically beating people as well, which I've heard is something David Miscavige does. There was one young man who was assigned to the bottom of the ship, into the bilges where the waste oil and water collects from the ship, from the engine room. And Hubbard liked to send people down there to clean out the mud boxes, as they are called. And again, Michael Douglas was down there for several days, not allowed any sleep, not allowed to go to the bathroom, not allowed any toilet paper, and he was fed meager meals, allowed no sleep. Did one of us question how denying someone going to the toilet would help their salvation? Did one of us ask how denying somebody toilet paper would help? Not one. And I'm truly ashamed to tell you that today. And the only thing I can tell you is that this is the totalitarian organization that Hubbard created. This is the culture he created. Once you are in that culture, you do not think logically. Your logical thought processes are turned off. You are committed to his ideals, his vision of the future, and you pardon everything he does. And I'm going to end it off at that point. I would like to say that a final word about people who do manage to get out of the organization. When I walked out of the Fort Harrison Hotel in Clearwater in 1982, I had no one to go to. I had no family in the United States. I had no friends. I was a declared suppressive. I had no money. I did not drive a car. And that is what kept me from leaving for years, because I constantly had the thought in my background for years, I need to leave. Something is not right. But the fear of going out on my own, to no one, nowhere, with nothing, kept me from doing that. The only thing that pushed me into that finally was the fact that I thought I was going crazy. The pain in my head was so bad I could not work, and I was starting to get what I call almost 2 Hanas. There were 2 parts of me. At one time I would be one, at one time I would be another, and in agreement with Scientology, and then I would flip back to the other one who knew I had to leave. And that scared the hell out of me. And that was when I finally said, I'm out of here. And it took me 3 months to leave. It was very arduous. Thank you so much. I want to thank Ursula. I want to gratefully thank the state of Hamburg, and thank you to the wonderful anonymous people who are here. You are a joy to see. Thank you.